you're just going to be cold, wet, and miserable, and you just got to be tough. No, that is not the case anymore. That was the case back when Fred Bear was bow hunting these mountains, right? That is not the case now. Like, you do not have to be cold, wet, and miserable. Let's talk about feet, because it is the one thing that tends to, either push people off stand or even out of the mountains. Like, I can't get my feet warm at the glass and knob, or, sleeping at night, I have cold feet. And, like, there's so many things you can do. And I want to know, I'm really interested in which overboots you're talking about, because we've talked about this before. But, what I do is I don't wear the thickest sock possible at the expense of having a tight-fitting boot, right? Because you need blood circulation. We talked about the food, which is going to help. Hydration helps with blood flow. Not having a rubber boot, which I'm not anti-rubber boot at all. Like, the new Ventlight boot is going to breathe better than any rubber boot ever, right? But for me, it was like, and where I hunt, I wear a 400 or 800 gram, insulated crispy boot.
Yeah, the Wild Rock.
The Wild Rock, yeah, right? So those are my favorite. But then when I get on stand, and I haven't done the overboots, but now that you mention it, I'm going to try it this year. But I bring a small foam ground pad. Some people will bring like a carpet remnant with some foam glue to the bottom, whatever it is. But I put it down on the cold metal tree stand grate. That, because they're grates, there's cold air circulating all the way around your foot, right? Almost in like a convection oven, but in opposite. And so I'm standing there, I'm like, man, my feet are starting to get a little cold. And before I ever let them get too cold, I pull that pad out, I put it down, and I stand on it. And I immediately insulate myself from the metal, which is going to pull heat, even through the boot, it's going to pull heat out of my foot through conductive cooling, right? And so that in and of itself can help go a long way. Now, some people may put chemical feet warmers in their boots if they want. I would recommend doing it after you get to your stand, but again, I'm not going to mess around with that. But I really like the concept of the overboot, because it's very similar to pulling on and taking off a pair of puffy pants or puffy jacket. It's the static layer.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the ones that I'm using, I can't say the name of it. They're
okay.
They're a prototype that I've been working on that's going to be coming out. So they work pretty well. But the other ones I've used in the past, Arctic Shields, they work. They're clumsy. They're kind of loud, but anything that goes over. Also, guys have talked about using wool socks, an old pair of wool socks, and just using the toe cap, putting that over it, and then slipping like a hand warmer or something in there to help with it.
Yep.
But you're talking about putting the carpet or whatever on the tree stand. There was, and we'd even looked at it with Timber Ninja of trying to make like a sleeve that went over the saddle platform that would make a way to insulate it, and because that's a little bit different where you're kind of working your way on the outside edges, and it was a little more complicated to figure out. But the other aspect was, where was I going with that? Okay, so you're talking about the metal stand. An example was we were hunting in Montana, and my camera guy, we were elk hunting, okay? So we were coming back and ended up going to get more supplies. We were backpack hunting, but came back to the truck, and he didn't want to set up his tent. And I said, why don't you sleep? I had my truck tent camper up on top of my Diamondback. And he's like, I'll just sleep underneath you on your Diamondback, the cold metal aluminum. And he didn't put a pad down or anything. And he's like, that was the coldest situation possible. And, then you put even just a sleeping pad on there, and you have that insulation that cuts you from that cold metal, and that's the same concept that you're doing with your foot on that metal.
Yeah, that's why I'm a huge proponent of just like, if you understand the fundamentals, if you understand some of these basic concepts, how we get cold, how we warm up, all those things, that just allows you now the freedom to be able to apply them in any situation. So, be it from sleeping on, the Diamondback cover in your truck or in the backcountry, or standing on a metal tree stand grate, like, it's all the same principles. Yeah. You're just figuring out unique ways to solve that specific problem, but you know how to do it. You know that I have to insulate myself. Okay, how is the best way to do that? And then all of a sudden you just start to understand that no matter what happens, you can apply those principles to anything.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you, you're talking about like the foot side of it too, like starting with the socks. And, you know, having I've always liked merino wool
100%,
sock.
yeah.
I've tried liners and stuff. I haven't been a huge fan of liners, just a good merino wool sock or blend of things works well for me. Synthetic itself just, I don't know. I just haven't.
They don't work as well in socks.
No, I don't. I don't understand it. But,
yeah, I don't either. I don't either, but yeah, I'm a huge merino wool sock person.
I gotta say that another thing I was skeptical on was SITKA's socks that were coming out at first, because I loved Darn Tough socks, and just like that's what I've used for a long time. And actually, we were talking about it last night. Harrison was saying, he's like, yeah, how do you liking those socks? I was like, I actually love them. Like, they've been working really well, and just, yeah, they've been working really good, maintain form even when they get sweaty. They don't get loose and sloppy.
Oh, yeah.
And everything. But good sock. I don't do, and I want to hear from you understanding the technical side of it, but I don't do 2 layers of socks, just 1 layer of socks with it. But do you have any thoughts on that, like from your?
Well, again, I think it's just part of the trying to keep circulation in your feet. Like, we're talking capillaries. Your feet aren't going to get, some people don't get great blood flow, but it's at the very bottom of this circulation system, and so you want to make sure you have good circulation. I'd rather have a looser pair of boots than a tighter pair of boots. Like, I'd rather have a looser pair of boots with 1 sock than a tighter boot with 2, because again, more isn't necessarily more. Now, if you want to wear a liner sock, like, there's no problem with that. And I used to many, many years ago, like, mountaineering and stuff like that, like ice climbing where you're constantly on your toes. Anyways. But some people have feet that sweat a lot. Mm-hmm. So that's oftentimes why they wear a liner sock. It is like a base layer in the sense that it pulls moisture off your skin. So theoretically, it can keep your feet warmer.
Okay.
And so I'm not discounting that at all. If people like that, they should. But not at the expense of having that. Even though it's a thin layer, that can actually make those boots, any boots you're wearing,
too tight,
tighter. And then if you do that, you're almost like throwing out any benefit you're going to get.
I wonder if that was more of my problem with that, because like I had the Crispy Wild Rocks, and I love those boots, but they were a little too tight for me, and I wonder if that was some of the problem with when I'd run like the liner or just a heavyweight wool sock. They were a little too tight, and I ended up buying some Schnees when I was out here in Montana, Beartooth. They're 200 gram. I wish they had a little bit more insulation, but those have worked pretty well for me. I got them a little bigger.
Yeah, socks are interesting. Like, you can definitely go with a thicker sock, but the way I look at socks is more about managing moisture and helping tweak or refine the fit of the boot. So, there's boots I have where thinner socks are the better choice, and there's some boots where like an expedition weight thick sock is a better choice to get that fit, right? But really where I'm relying on, if it's an insulated boot, I'm relying on the insulation in the boot to really keep my foot warm.
Okay.
Is what I'm relying on.
Yep.
But you need to, whatever it is, you should test fit the boots with whatever sock system that you want to use. I think that's important. I think the ones that we have now, I think they're great. And I've been a Darn Tough guy for, a long time.
Yeah.
And I think ours are as good as anything I've ever used.
Yes. I agree.
But what else was I going to say? I was going to say something else about socks, but yeah, it's important that that you keep good circulation more than anything when it comes to socks.
Yeah. And another thing too with boots, this is something that I don't think I've talked about before, and I want to hear your thoughts with it. But when I come back, I put them, if I have the ability, I put them on a boot dryer right away to try to dry them out. But I don't like to have them where I pull them off, put them on, and go. It might feel good right off the bat, but it almost makes your foot too hot.
Yeah.
If you have them on an electric one. Now I have these little battery operated ones. I think Graxaw is a company that makes them that plug into like a little charging device there. Mm-hmm. So like if you're on a trip and you don't want to carry this big boot dryer. You can use that. It just uses airflow circuit, basically fans that go through. That helps dry them out. But having a dry boot to start the day in whitetail hunting can be really helpful too.
Yeah, that was the thing I was going to say. Having really not saddle hunted, but having done a lot of climbing and hanging in harnesses and stuff, it's like if your feet are pushing against that platform all the time, just by default you're cutting off circulation, and so I'm assuming you move your feet around some, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to help. But again, that's an interesting problem to solve. That if I'm just sitting in a tree stand with a traditional tree stand, I'm not having those issues. I've got other issues, but I don't have that particular issue.
Hard-soled boots they're super important.
Which again goes back to more like mountaineering.
Yep.
Not mountaineering, but like backpacking type boots, right?
Like trekking
boots, to help with that. And then the last thing I wanted to say about feet, because it's such a big deal, is again, I get a lot of people saying, well, my feet just sweat a lot, and so, I mean, I've talked to guys that are literally changing their socks at the base of the tree from the hike in, right? Okay, cool. That's what you got to manage. One way to help with that, certainly change your socks at the base of a tree, but you can treat your feet just like you can your armpits with antiperspirant. In the morning when you're getting dressed, you can, I don't know if they have spray antiperspirant
They
anymore.
do. Yeah.
So spray antiperspirant or rub the stick on there, and just like your armpit, it's going to maybe not stop the sweating, but it's going to cut it down. It's going to limit it, right? And I don't suffer with that problem, but I learned that from some old climbers and, who are going into really Arctic conditions. And they're like, oh, yeah, we do everything we can to treat our feet. And it'll work for the day. And then the next day you do it again. Next day. And so anything you can do to cut down and limit the moisture buildup within that, to include like, hey, I'm pulling it off the boot dryer. I need, anything in here to like dissipate so that I'm not going to sweat, is going to go a long, long way in keeping warm feet when you're in the whitetail woods.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Man, that's, And talking about like on the saddle platform of having your feet like this, I started hunting with a bigger platform that we have a new one coming out. It's kind of a hybrid. It's 20 inches long, so you can stand on it like a tree stand, or lean on it as a saddle.
Okay.
And I stand a lot, and I'll just lean into the tree.
Okay.
I just have never been able to lean all the time and stay. Even on the small platforms, I'd find a way to stand at certain times just from your feet. And that allows you to wear different boots as well. Like the vent lights. When I was a very anti-rubber boot person, but I will say that those do breathe well for a rubber boot. They're still not going to breathe as well as a hiking boot is going to, but they breathe pretty dang well. If you have, even a half mile to a mile hike in with some moderate terrain, they're going to do pretty well for that.
Yeah.
If I'm hiking up a steep face going up through there, they're still not going to be the one that I want to use, and rather would have more of a hiking or trekking style boot to do that. But they've been very impressive with it, because I remember when that first project first started years ago, and Chris talked to me about it. He's like, do you want to help test? I was like, no. I said, I'm not interested. I can't. I don't think I have feedback because I don't wear rubber boots. He's like, this is going to be different.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that I did.
We were talking about this yesterday. It's been at least 5, if not almost 6 years of development for that vent light boot.
Yeah.
Which,
it's crazy.
I mean, it sounds crazy to me. It's got to sound insane to people that just, aren't in that world, but that's sometimes what it takes.
Yeah. No, that's it's super cool, but once you understand like these principles, that everything we've been talking about here, it may seem like information overload the first time you hear it, but when you figure out those things, and each person's different, each body's a little bit different, like you talk about the sweaty feet or cold hands or whatever it might be, you figure those things out and you refine it to be able to stay on the stand longer, be focused, and make the hunt enjoyable.
Yeah.
Like that's, maybe you can grind it out, but why make it harder if you don't have to?
I want every legal advantage I can get.
Hey guys, thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed this conversation, share it with your buddies. Leave us a rating, a review, and subscribe. If you want to check out more content like this, there's plenty in the links below. We truly appreciate having you guys along with us.